Hey everyone, to go along with our read aloud this week of the book Home by Carson Ellis and all the fun different homes that she shows in this book, we are going to create our own imaginative homes this week, and we're going to have a ton of options of how to do that. I'm going to go through all of them in this video. I'll also put in the description kind of the timestamps of where you can find each option, so you can kind of jump around and see what you want to do, and then watch me demonstrate and go and make your own. So let's get started. All right, so first thing, if you have Legos at home, you can absolutely, this would be a great thing to make your house out of. It's one of our 3D options, so building something. I don't have a ton of Legos at home, so I don't really have enough to build my home that I want to do for this project. So these are just a few that I have that I'm going to use in a little bit to show you something else that we can do with Legos. But if this is an option for you, you can definitely do this. And let me show you a couple more. All right, so another way that you can build a fun little home or a whole bunch of homes are with some recycled materials that you might find at your house. So I'm going to show you how you can take a box and just easily make it into something like this. So any box works. What's great, what I like to do is, I don't really like this outside one. It has way too much printed on it. And that's really distracting and hard to color on. You could just wrap them in paper if you want to do that, but I like to do a little trick of flipping them inside out. So you probably already have one side open. So what you're going to do is you're going to find all the other kind of seams that put the box together. So on the bottom, I can start kind of pulling this apart. And then there's always a side seam somewhere, so you just have to look for it. It's just bent here, so that's not it. I come across and I find where it's kind of doubled up, and I can kind of see it inside if I look there. So that's where I'm going to pull apart. And what this does is it allows me to flatten my box, okay? And it keeps the structure of the box intact. So all I need to do is turn it inside out, like that. Okay, and then wherever it was attached before, I just reattach it now inside out. So at my home, all I have right now is, well, I have other tape, but what I used is this blue painter's tape. And I like using this. What would be ideal would be like a masking tape. I just couldn't find any at my home. Why I like this kind of tape versus like a Scotch tape or like a packing tape is because the texture of it is similar to the box. It's not that kind of slippery texture of of Scotch tape or other versions. So again, I'm just kind of reversing all the folds and putting it back together inside out. I kind of go over the edge just to make sure that it stays down. If you have a collection of like fancy decorative tapes, those could be really fun and play a part in your little imaginative home creation for sure. All right, and finally, the top, and you can there's normally like a reclose thing on box, so you can just use that as is, and you're just using it inside out. You might need to tape down a little bit more, but now this surface you can draw on. I just used markers for this one, and I just kind of made it look like a regular house, but remember, it can look any way you want. We're using that book Home as kind of our inspiration of a bunch of different looking houses and places that you might be able to call home. So be creative with yours. You can use markers with your box like this, crayons, paint, whatever you have at home to turn these kind of recycled goods into some fun buildings. And if you want, you can make a whole bunch and make a little village. All right, so use your imagination, see what you can come up with to build a 3D home. All right, if you want to keep watching, I'm going to show you some 2D, some flat options that have some different materials too. All right, this next option you've maybe done with me before. It's a really fun and different way to use Legos. We're going to be using Legos as stamps. So this is going to require you to have a few things. One, you need to have like an ink pad. Okay, I have giant ones just because they're really fun and we use them for some big stamps in our class. But any ink pad will do. Okay, and then you also need to have Legos that you don't mind getting dirty. So please make sure, please make sure that it is okay for you to use your Legos this way. Ask permission first, okay? So I'm going to show you how we can use Legos as a stamp. Now, I have a few different colors. Let me show you that I've brought with me today. Okay, so I can use a few different ones for some different things. So I'm gonna get started, and I think, let me see, I'm gonna just start with this one. I can use any part of the Lego, so I'm gonna just start with this kind of side. Okay, it's the solid rectangle side. It's not this open side or this side that has little dots on top. So I'm gonna use this side. And what's important when I'm pushing my Legos down is that I'm keeping my fingers out of the ink pad. If your fingers are bound to get dirty during this, and the dirtier they get, the more likely you're gonna mess up your artwork. So do your best to kind of keep them as clean as possible. Now, I am starting, I don't know if you can see that. There we go. I am starting to stamp down here as if I'm stamping some grass. I like that it's irregular, seeing the different coloration of the stamp, having it be uneven. That is showing that it is stamping. It's a kind of art making called printmaking when you make art with stamps, and that's kind of the telltale sign of printmaking is that kind of texture. So I like that. That's not a bad thing. I'm also kind of just doing whichever way I want to with my stamp. All right, now I need to be sure that I then don't just throw this down because this still has ink on it. So I'm gonna put it off to the side here where it's safe. Something like that. Okay. Then I can start thinking about my house, right? How I want to build a house. So I can look at my different shapes here. I'm going to switch my color out. Maybe I want a red house so it stands out. You can see we've done a lot of this in class. All right, so I think I'm going to, since I'm doing red, maybe I'll just go ahead and take this one. This time, instead of using the side, I'm going to use this bottom part of my Lego, and it's going to give me this rectangle. Okay, so I'm going to do this a few times over, and I'll speed up the video so you can just watch. And I think I want the roof to be a different color. So I think I'm going to do a couple things. One, I think I will use this long skinny one. Now, if you're using these kind of flat ones, this is really important when I was talking about earlier with trying to keep your fingers clean, because that's really easy to kind of just put your fingers right in the ink pad. So I'm really being careful how I hold it. I'm just going to use the edge, and this is going to just give me a line that I can then use for the roof line. And then I want to show you one more thing I can do for this blue roof. Close that little spot up. Need two hands. There we go. Okay. So again, I'm being careful to put put what I've already used to the side. I'm going to show you how we can use yet another side. So now I'm doing the dotted side that has these little bumps. I'm going to push that down, okay, and watch. I can make this pattern that repeats like so. Let me speed it up again. Okay. Finally, I can go in and add, let's see. I'm gonna use this to add the door and some windows. All right, and finally, I cannot take credit for this. This came up, a student came up with this last year when we were doing it. If you get the single guys, you can use that as just a dot for a different detail. So like your doorknob or whatever else you might want a dot for. So I could keep going and add more details in here, but this is just to give you an idea of how to start this. Doing some Lego stamping for your own imaginative little home. Okay, so for this next one, you are going to need some different colored papers. I have construction paper here today, scissors and glue, and a paper to glue things down onto. Now I'm going to use my paper and make them almost like they are kind of building blocks or Lego squares and rectangles. So I just take my paper, I'm going to fold it in half just so I can cut a couple at a time, but you can absolutely, see that gave me two things with one cut, but you can absolutely just keep it straight. You don't need to fold it to do this. This just kind of saves me time. Cut that folded piece, and then I can cut them down from there, any size I want. I'm not making them all exactly the same. I'm not making them perfect. I like the imperfections. I like when it has a little character. Just keeps it interesting. That's what I like about art. All right, once I have everything cut up, I can then start using them as the building blocks. So I can use my glue stick. I would definitely recommend a glue stick if you have it. If you don't, any other kind of glue works. Glue stick just kind of keeps it from getting too messy. All right, and then kind of like with the Lego stamping that I just showed, this does not need to be perfect. I'm not lining them all up exactly the same. Again, I kind of like the imperfections, the irregularities. All right, maybe a couple bigger ones just to keep it interesting. All right, I kind of like that. All right, then I can go and start building my house. All right, and I'm going to do an orange roof. think for the roof, I'm going to go the opposite way. I want it all to kind of be coming down. So I think what I'm going to do, how do roofs normally work? I think I'm going to start here and then work my way up. So don't actually want pieces this big, so I'm just going to cut them down. And this time, instead of going on the little pieces, I'm just going to go like this. I'm just going to put glue. I know I'm going to fill this whole space. But I want to work quickly so the glue doesn't dry. I'm going to keep a little gap to show the difference. And then kind of alternate. It doesn't need to be perfect yet again. Whoop, hands are getting sticky. Alright, and I can keep adding details from there. And this is kind of my collage, because I'm taking lots of little papers, putting them together to make one big picture. There's a little grass under here too, sorry. And I could keep going back and adding more details. I could cut smaller pieces, but I really like that I'm trying to make everything out of squares and rectangles, just as if I had Legos. From there, if I want to go in and I add things by drawing on, maybe I want to draw the windows on, I kind of would like to maybe get yet another color paper and cut like the windows and doors out. Let me just add a door just cause. And even, so if I add this door on top, there, I can even make an itty bitty square. I'm trying to do everything out of rectangles and squares. A little bit of glue and stick the doorknob on. All right, so try this one out. Goodness, there we go, struggle.